The last thing that I wanted to show you with this exercise is using React fragments, and it's not directly related to what we're talking about with custom components here, but it seemed like a pretty good place to teach you how to use this particular feature. So to render a React element, you pass in that React element, but what if I didn't want to have this div in here? What if the end result I wanted was something that had a div with a class of message and hello world, and then another one with goodbye world. And right now what I have is another div here with a class of container, and then everything's in there. But what if I wanted to not have that container and just render these two side by side inside of my root? Okay, let's see if we can figure out how to make that work. So if I come down here, then I guess my element won't have that container, so we'll just remove that. And now we're in a bit of a problem. Okay, we're seeing this red underline, and that red underline is saying, hey, JSX expressions must have one parent element. And so like that's kind of annoying because like that's not what I want it to do, right? I want it to just put those two side by side. But let's think about this further. What if we didn't have this variable here for the element, and we just put that in directly right there? Okay, so we'll just right there, right? So that doesn't make any sense either, because that's just two things side by side in an argument list, and you can't really do that. And if that's not making total sense, then maybe this will. So let's, instead of our element right here, we'll say our element equals React create element message with a subject world and the greeting hello. Okay, so that's our first element. And then I guess for the second element for goodbye, like where would we put that? Okay, this isn't like a JSX thing. This is just a regular JavaScript. Like how do you assign an element or any variable to two things? You can't put two things side by side. Now you might be able to get away with making this an array. So let's just get rid of that, and instead of just assigning it to two things, we'll assign it to one thing, which is an array. And technically that's going to work. We're going to get a unique key prop warning here, which we'll learn about later. But that's not exactly what we want. It's not super ergonomic. Ultimately, it renders what we're looking for, which is great, but it's not the ergonomics that we really want. So let's back this up. What I really want is I just want to put these two things side by side. It's telling me that I need to have a parent element. And so this is what a React fragment is intended to solve. So let's change this. We'll say React.fragment. And React fragment is just like a shell component that really doesn't do anything other than let me do exactly what we're trying to accomplish here. So now we're not getting any sort of warning because we have that one parent element, but we are getting both of these rendered side by side. So that's all a React fragment is. It just allows you to render two things side by side. This is really useful for when the DOM structure is super important, like if you're making a flexbox type thing or a grid, or maybe you're doing a table or something, and the layout of the HTML and the DOM is really important for the way that you're styling it, whatever. That's where the React fragment comes in really handy. And there's a special syntax here as well, which actually here, let me show you first what this is compiled down to. We just get React create element, React.fragment right here. And now I'm going to take away the React create element, and we'll just do this open and closing angle bracket. And that works as well. And what that gets compiled to is exactly the same thing as React create element, React fragment. So this is just special syntax sugar. You'll see this, I'm sure, in the code bases that you build, which is why I'm showing you that you can just provide an open and closing angle bracket, and that will basically just be the same as React.fragment, allowing you to put two elements side by side for those cases where you really need the DOM structure to be something very specific.